I welcome you all to this course on Advaita Vedanta. In the introduction video, I spoke about certain fundamental questions that we all ask ourselves. I spoke about questions like, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? What should I do with my life? What is my role towards others, etc. I spoke about how these questions should serve as a reminder that our understanding of these realities is inadequate. I introduced Vedanta as the knowledge of these realities and how Vedanta unravels the truth about these realities and thus helps us in living a more happy, peaceful, and fulfilling life. If we think about our life at present, we will see that our life is full of struggles. Our life right now is a constant stream of struggles. We are pursuing various things. We are engaged in these pursuits that we think that we need to be doing. And it is a constant struggle. What is it that we are really pursuing? If we think about it, there are some common aims behind all our pursuits. These aims are happiness, fulfillment, peace of mind, satisfaction, contentment. These are some common goals behind whatever we do. Now, what is amazing is that even though we are pursuing these goals through all our efforts, through all our pursuits, yet most of our life is the opposite of these things. Most of our life is spent suffering. Most of our life is the opposite of fulfillment, happiness, and peace of mind. So there is a gap. There is a gap between what we are seeking and what we are getting. And this should make us understand that there is a problem somewhere. Where the problem is, we don't know. And so in this first segment, we will try to pinpoint where exactly the problem is. Now, when we talk about our life pursuits, we must first try to understand what exactly we are pursuing. So let's look at our pursuits one by one. The first thing that we are all pursuing is money. Everything begins with money. The career that we choose, the job that we take up, the business that we do, a very big factor in making these choices is the money involved. The profession that we are in, the trade that we do, everything, it's about how lucrative it is. So money is a very, very important and fundamental pursuit of all our lives. Now, are we pursuing money for money's sake? Or are we pursuing money for something else? Well, if we really think about it, what money gives us is basically a sense of security. So we can say that what we are pursuing when we are pursuing money is to overcome this sense of insecurity. We pursue the career that we pursue or the job that we do to overcome a sense of insecurity. Another pursuit which is related to money is power or name or fame. Again, why do we pursue these things? A very simple analysis is that we don't like who we are right now and we would want something else. We would want to be something else or someone else, and that is why we are pursuing these goals. So what we are essentially doing is we are trying to overcome a sense of inadequacy, a feeling of being limited, and that is why we are pursuing these goals. Third pursuit is pleasure. This is again a very, very important pursuit in our lives. From the time we wake up to the time we sleep, we are pursuing various opportunities of pleasure in everything that we do. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the places we go, the people we meet, the activities that we engage in, we are looking for pleasure through all of it. Again, if we look at it really, what is it that we're pursuing through these various activities of pleasure? It is to overcome a feeling of unhappiness, a lack of fulfillment. So we are trying to overcome all these feelings and afflictions that we think are weighing us down. So now Vedanta looks at all these pursuits from a different light. It says that we are pursuing all these things to overcome one of these feelings, to overcome our sense of inadequacy, our sense of insecurity, unhappiness, unfulfillment. We are basically pursuing freedom from all these things. We are trying to free ourselves from all these inadequacy, unhappiness, unfulfillment. Freedom is really the pursuit of all our activities, of all our life. Now, we spend our lifetime in these pursuits. We spend our whole life doing all these things, and yet we remain unfulfilled. Yet we remain feeling a sense of limitation, feeling a sense of lack. So, where is the problem? It's not that all these pursuits are completely futile. They do give us some amount of freedom. They do give us some amount of fulfillment and happiness. But Vedanta tells us that it's limited. It's only for the time being. What we are looking for is perhaps permanent fulfillment, permanent freedom. But these pursuits can never give us that. We engage in one pursuit to fulfill ourselves, and then another pursuit emerges, and then another pursuit emerges. This person who is unfulfilled, who is feeling limited, remains constant throughout these pursuits. If this person was fulfilled, why would he pursue something more? So, in effect, these pursuits do give us something, but that thing is limited. It has an end. It has a beginning as well as an end. What we are looking for is complete freedom, permanent freedom. So Vedanta tells us that these pursuits can never give us what we are looking for. To achieve the complete and permanent freedom, what we have to do is understand ourselves for who we are really. So now what does Vedanta suggest we should do? Vedanta makes a very interesting proposition. It says that you are already free. It says that you don't need to pursue freedom through all these activities. You don't need to pursue fulfillment through all these activities. The freedom and the fulfillment that you are pursuing is already there, is already achieved with yourself. The reason that we are feeling unfulfilled or we are feeling limited is because of a mistake of our mind. It's a very fundamental mistake where we don't understand the true nature of self clearly. If we ask ourselves, who am I? Then the common answer is to define ourselves as this individual, this body, this mind. This is how we define ourselves. I am a person who has this and this age. This is my height. All this is related to the body. I am healthy, I am fit, or I am unhealthy, or I am having an illness. So all that is related with the body. And then I talk about my education, my experiences, my interests. All that is related with the mind. So essentially, we define ourselves as this body and mind. Our understanding of self revolves around this individual only. Vedanta tells us that this understanding of the self is incorrect. It is a mistake of our mind. We don't know ourselves clearly. When we take ourselves to be this body and mind, what we do is we superimpose the limitations of this body and mind onto the self. We superimpose the afflictions and the sufferings of this body and mind onto the self. All those things the self may not even have. So what we are doing is we are making a very serious mistake of superimposition. Vedanta calls this mistake adhyasa. Adhyasa is a Sanskrit word which means superimposition. To illustrate the meaning of adhyasa, we have with us a crystal. As you can see, this crystal is colorless. But if I were to put a red thread behind it, and if someone were to see it from that side, they might think that the crystal is red in color. Now, thinking that the crystal is red, if that man begins to clean the crystal, begins to free the crystal of its redness, will he ever succeed? He will never succeed. He will only succeed when he comes closer and sees the crystal for what it is. When he realizes that the crystal is already free from the redness, that the crystal is not red at all. Now, Vedanta tells us that we make the same mistake about ourselves. Just as that man superimposed the redness of the thread onto the crystal, we superimpose this body and mind onto the self, and also the afflictions, the sufferings, and the limitations of this body and mind onto the self. And not only do we make this mistake translates into our actions. Just as the man begins to free the crystal of its redness, we begin to free ourselves, we begin to try to free ourselves from our limitations, our afflictions, our sufferings. And then we struggle and we suffer. So, what is the solution? The solution now is very obvious to us. The solution is to know ourselves clearly, to know who I am, what is this self truly, is the solution to our problem. Because of our ignorance of the self, we suffer. We make this error of adhyasa. So Vedanta tells us that the purpose of our lives should be to remove this ignorance and know ourselves for what it truly is. This knowledge will then help us in living a more fulfilling and happy life. Just think about it. If we know that I am free, I am fulfilled, I am secure, I am happy, I am at peace. If I know that all these things are already with me, that I don't need to pursue these things, that I don't need to run after some objects, some pursuits to achieve these things, then my life will not be a constant struggle, a constant striving. My life will be based on my understanding of my fullness, my freedom. My life will be then aimed at something higher, something more meaningful. And this is what Vedanta does to our lives. In the next few segments, we will see why exactly do we say that the body and mind is not the self. We live our lives thinking that the body and mind is myself. And when Vedanta tells me that body and mind is not myself, then it needs to prove us that. So in the next few segments, we will see why exactly does Vedanta say that the body and mind is not the self.